Thanks so much for your patience, and sorry about that again. That's awful. Okay, I think we're on. All right. Hello, welcome back to Literary Happy Hour. Thanks so much to everyone who's here tonight, whether in the Zoom room or on the live stream on YouTube at LitHub's virtual book channel. My name's Matt Bell. Echo, sorry about that. I'm so glad to be gathered with you all, and I hope you're as excited as I am for tonight's readers, Mary-Kim Arnold, Amina Cain, and Charles Yu. For those of you who haven't done these with us before, this will be our order of events. I'll begin by introducing our three writers who each read for around 7 minutes. Afterwards, I'll come back and thank them, and then we'll use Zoom's breakout room feature to separate the Zoom audience into tables for socializing and conversation. I'll also end the live stream at that time. The rooms will be automatically assigned to sort of randomly splits people up. If you end up in an empty room or something goes wrong, if you send a private message to me in the chat feature, I'll happily reassign you and get you back with people who are still hanging out. You can feel free to hang out as long as you'd like. Last time, a few breakout groups, including mine, lasted for quite a while. There's no time limit, and I'll happily leave the meeting running as long as there are still people hanging out. Couple last points of order. Please leave your microphones muted during the readings. There's a reaction button in Zoom where you can clap, which I hope you feel free to use. But the text chat is actually the best place to cheer or be enthusiastic or otherwise be a great audience for our readers while the readings are actually going on. It's also the best place to let me know if something's going wrong once the readings begin, but hopefully nothing else will. Okay, without further ado, let me introduce our three readers. Mary-Kim Arnold is a poet, writer, and visual artist. Litany for the Long Moment, her book-length experimental essay, was selected by Carla Harriman for the 2016 Essay Press Prize and published in 2018. Her newest book is a poetry collection, The Fish and the Dove, out now from Noemi Press. Adopted from Korea and raised in New York, she lives in Rhode Island with her husband and children. Amina Cain is the author of a novel, Indelicacy, and two collections of short fiction, Creature and I Go to Some Hollow. Her writing has appeared in Granta, The Paris Review Daily, Bomb, N+1, The Believer Logger, and other places. She lives in Los Angeles. Finally, Charles Yu is the author of 4 books, including the novel How to Live Safely in a Science Fictional Universe, which was a New York Times notable book and named one of the best books of the year by Time magazine. He was also nominated for 2 WGA awards for his work on the HBO series Westworld. His latest novel, Interior Chinatown, was published by Pantheon in January 2020. Please join me in raising a glass to our first reader, Mary-Kim Arnold.
Hi, is it working? Hi, thank you so much, Matt. It's really great to be here with you and to get to read with Charles and Amina. In all of the chaos of the last few weeks, I hadn't really had a chance to feel anything about not getting to launch this book, which the publication date was April 1st. But it just started to hit me the other day that I wouldn't really be able to celebrate it. And so it's really great to have this opportunity to be with all of you tonight. So I'm going to read a couple of poems from this book called The Fish and the Dove, out now from Noemi Press, as Matt said. And I just want you to be able to see the beautiful cover art, if you can, by my friend, the artist, Xander Morrow. I'm going to read 2 of the Semiramis poems. Semiramis was a legendary Assyrian warrior who was thought to have ruled Babylon around 800 BCE. And I was initially drawn to her because she was an orphan. Her mother was a fish goddess who fell in love with a mortal man, according to legend. And she became a kind of starting point for thinking about women and how they were represented and used in the language and histories of war. So this first poem is called Woman's Rule or Book of War. 1. Consider Semiramis. They give her a chapter in their history books, call it Woman's Rule, but manage to make it about men. Yet it was his fate to marry a princess. Such fame as was hers was due to the premature death of her husband. Conquests attributed to Semiramis are indeed exaggerations of those which must be assigned to her period of rule. What is a woman for if not to feed the imaginations of men. The most beautiful, most cruel, most powerful, and most lustful of all the Oriental queens. In the end, they say she is betrayed by a son. To be the mother of men is to harbor the enemy. Must a woman always choose ambition or love, love or war? 2. My father never spoke of it, but it was spoken, whispered around him, not the same after the war, not the same. Later, a photograph of corpses, a photograph of fires burning, the photograph of my father's silence hung on every wall. 3. Police action, limited war, civil war, unknown war, forgotten war. How easy it is to get into war, how unspeakable to get out. A sudden white flash filled the corridor with light. 4. Found on a tree branch, found in a trash can, found in a basket floating to the sea. War forges its orphans, then marches in to rescue. Mongrel, half-breed, war hammers itself out on the bodies of women. They say her mother was a whore. They say her mother, what she needs is good old American. 5. Isn't girlhood in America a life-threatening condition? All the fields you skip through are laced with broken glass. Girl next door who keeps the front gate open, always visible, always knowable, to be entered. They didn't call me angry, but I was. They didn't call me desperate, but I was. Didn't I paint my eyelids blue and try for them? Gold hoop earrings big as fists, dancing at the clubs we snuck into, woozy with blackberry brandy, hips swaying all night, all wide, all open. 6. My American father leaves us to start a new life. Later, he sends letters in which he tells me about his wife. She's just a doll, and she can cook, and let me tell you what she can do. I tell him about a man I love. He sends a postcard back. You tell him that I have a gun, and I swear to God if he lays a hand on you. Has it always been the same to them in love and violence? 7. I've collected more words than I thought possible. I read the history books, but all I find is perpetual war, state of alert, perpetual fear. Walk quickly in the dark, keep your eyes down, don't get yourself pregnant, don't get yourself raped, cross the street, tug your skirt down, stay alert, count your steps, cover your face, hold your breath. When a man says, I am walking behind you, but I am not a threat, doesn't it remind you of how easily he could gut you? Post-war, post-mortem, post-meaning, what is lost remains lost, what is taken remains lost. 8. In the end, he says, it feels like I am burning. He tells me of the man who died in his arms and of the other one who tripped on a mine. He says, I looked up and there he was, raining down on me. And this last poem I'll read is called, it's sort of the title poem of the book. It's called The Fish and the Dove, the Semiramis Cycle. The queen takes the throne by force. Ambition makes her beautiful, her sweat-soaked gown, blood on the tip of every sword. Usurper, pretender, imposter. The men whisper and hiss at her, but she has their eyes plucked out, gathers them up in her skirts the way she carried blueberries to her father as a child. Later at the altar, she lays the silver bowl down, washes her hands in a basin of holy water, then tips it out on the stone floor, orders the sightless men to their knees to lap the water up. Defiling something is one way to make it yours. It is said that when she was young, she licked all the ripest fruits laid out on the table, and who would dare touch them after that? Semiramis was someone to write operas about. Imagine a woman wielding power. Imagine a woman on the ancient throne, beautiful and ruthless. If we are going to be ruled by a woman, at least let her be a whore. It turns them on to think of her, the historians, I mean. Year after year, one bloody battle after another. But what's this? A sexy lady coming down the annals of time. Is she beautiful? Yes. Is she wicked? Yes. Will she punish us for our wickedness? Yes, oh baby, yes. Power fits her differently than the men who came before. She wraps herself in the blood-soaked garment, prances around, but all the blood in the ocean will not bring her mother back. Semiramis stands barefoot in the throne room trembling. She weeps now for the sightless men, weeps for her own father, his skin blackening where it was hung on a pillar at the entrance to the city. She has had her vengeance, has seen the children of her enemies boiled and burned, their splintered bones clogging the canals. But all the rotting skins, all the choked breath of her enemies, all the white ash littering the streets will not bring her father back. Men claim she is not fit for the throne, that her heart at times has been too tender. This is not a conviction universally held. Does she fear death? She does. Does she fear love? Do not cross her. Respect and admiration are not the same as fear, though their effects might look the same in certain light. Standing where powerful men have stood before is powerful, clawing at the palace draperies with your own unwashed hands. If at the point of your spear men cultivate land for you, is the land yours? If it is their blood that soaks the earth, but by your hand that they bleed, does the earth too become yours? Her father slain, her mother left to throw herself to the sea. They say she killed 1,000 men. They say she loved 1,000 more, straddled and rode them to the gated walls of the city, urged them all in. Is love not a kind of battle? Is battle not a strike of love? If you can't control it, kill it, she has been known to say. Some say she slayed them all so that none would mistake her body's hunger for more than what it was. A woman cannot afford affection when she has an empire to run. Don't say you have never used another for your pleasure. Don't say you have never wished it had all gone another way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary-Kim. That was really incredible. Really fantastic to get to hear you read. My copy of your book is somewhere in the AWP virtual book fair process, and I'm very much looking forward to it and can't wait to read it. I was just telling my wife, Jessica, yesterday that I continued to think about your talk at Nonfiction Now, like 2 years ago. That's just sort of has stuck with me and has been something I return to a lot. So it's really lovely to get to hear you speak again. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, Mary-Kim. Our next reader will be Amina Cain.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to read a bit from my novel Indelicacy, which came out in February. And it's a novel that takes place atmospherically in the late 1800s. The narrator, Vittoria, is a cleaning woman at a museum, and she starts writing about the paintings she sees. Eventually, she marries a rich man. And what I'm going to read from is when she's no longer working at the museum, and it's kind of like her first return there. When I couldn't wait any longer, I went to the museum. I wanted to see Antoinette, and I wanted to look at the paintings. It had been almost 6 months since I was last there. Again, it was Christmas, and I walked the route from where I now lived, feeling nostalgic for the year before, for that other route. It's not that I wanted to return to it exactly. There was the music. There was the light shining out into the snow. There were the paintings and drawings. I had brought my notebook. I had worn my plainest dress, and I walked through the galleries looking for Antoinette. In every room I thought I might find her, but every room was empty in that way. I began going to the museum regularly and wrote again my descriptions of the things I saw there. I wrote about 7 works of mercy and Portrait of a Woman as St. Agnes, and I still didn't know what I would do with these descriptions. what their purpose was, but filling the pages of my book was satisfying. I felt I must be filling myself too. The more often I visited without catching a glimpse of Antoinette, the more I missed her, but I was afraid to make my inquiries, to enter the part of the museum for the people who work there. I saw other young women scrubbing the walls or mopping, a few I remembered, but whom I had never gotten to know. We didn't say anything to each other. I thought back to a night that previous winter, when in our wandering, Antoinette and I had discovered a small tavern tucked in next to the lake and dared each other to go in. It had been foggy on the lake that night, and so it felt as if one side of us were a void. Be yourself again. Inside, the tavern looked like a country inn, everything in wood, the walls and the floors, and at a long wooden bar sat many men. We wanted to get drunk, but we couldn't afford to. Sharing a single glass of something cheap, we listened to the music of a band playing in the corner. It too was all men. Still, it was good. Someone was playing a fiddle. May I have this dance? Antoinette asked, surprising me. We danced in that place that was like a country inn, only one other couple dancing with us. I held Antoinette's shoulder and waist, self-consciously as always, yet some other part of me was relaxed. We kept smiling at each other, laughing. It was almost as if we were in a play. And it's true that everyone was watching us. Most people will watch two women dancing together. Now, without asking where Antoinette might be, I would never know how to find her. I didn't even know where she lived. She might as well be lost in that void. So finally, I got up my nerve. I went to my old employer, and he told me coldly that she was gone, that she hadn't worked hard enough, and so they had had no choice but to let her go. Other girls wanted to work, and so they were. Antoinette, my dreamer, I should have known. I tried to speak to my old employer, even more coldly than he had spoken to me, but he was a tough match. How unpleasing you are, I said, like a tooth that hasn't been brushed in years and is growing hair on it. My walks around the city were for Antoinette then, with the hope I might see her, looking into shop windows, throwing crumbs for the birds. Life went on without her, and I became the person I was when I was married to someone, when I lived with someone and shared a bed. I did things I had never done before, that I had always been curious about. I tried to talk about my feelings. I gave my husband oral sex. I attended a lecture given by a famous psychotherapist. I attended concerts and plays, keeping a list of all the performances in my notebook. And one evening, my husband finally came home with tickets to the ballet. Weeks before that, I had told him I wanted to go, but because it took so long for him to get them, I thought he had forgotten. I was happy. It would be my first time going to the ballet, and I added it to my list. As Solange was getting ready for bed, we were getting ready to leave. She was even quieter that night than usual. After my bath, I sat in front of my mirror and thought about death. I had begun to worry about it, though I didn't want to, especially not in a moment such as that one. I put on a red silk dress and pulled my hair back from my face with gold combs. I had a gold necklace with stars on it. We walked to the theater in the warm spring night, and I felt we were already hearing the music, though we were still blocks away. It was drawing me to it. Once there, my husband talked to a boring couple he knew, and I instinctively looked around for Antoinette. The theater was full and noisy. I knew I wouldn't see her, but what if her luck had changed? Now I regretted even more not telling her of my marriage, not having said goodbye. Still, I enjoyed myself. How could I not? Our seats were close to the front. We could watch everything closely. When the lights came up on stage, 8 dancers appeared, dressed in black. At first they were still, then in twos they began moving. Even that first moment made my heart beat. Then another dancer appeared, wearing the mask of a horse, her hair sticking out of the back of the mask like a mane. After that, I went to the ballet as often as I could, all that spring. I didn't tell my husband it helped me to write, that I was inspired by it. I told him only that I loved it, that I enjoyed dressing up at night and going out into the city, both of which were true. There was the dancing, but the music too enchanted me, and the sets, though flat, were also real. I wanted to go inside the wooden buildings, meant to conjure the street of a village. I was there in that village, though I was also still in my seat, completely taken in, the way I was so often taken in by scenes and paintings. And I will stop there. Thank you so much, Matt, for having us and for doing this. It's very nice.
Thank you so much for that wonderful reading. That was fantastic. Such a fan of your work and of this novel and of your other books. And it's really a pleasure to finally get to hear you read. I feel like the best thing about this kind of thing is that I've been able to just sort of engineer getting to hear dream readings of mine. So thank you very much for that. Thank you to Amina. Our next and final reader will be Charles Yu.
Okay, is that working? Can everyone
You're
hear
there,
me?
Charles. It's great.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks so much, Matt. And I really enjoyed the first two readers. Sad that the book launches have gotten disrupted, but you know, now I know about these books and can't wait to read them. I'm going to read from my new book. I turned on a filter. Do I look like a potato to everyone? Is that what's happening? No. This is best read as a potato, but I'll just read it anyway. Interior Golden Palace. Ever since you were a boy, you've dreamt of being Kung Fu Guy. You are not Kung Fu Guy. You are currently background Oriental male, but you've been practicing. Maybe tomorrow will be the day. Interior Golden Palace. Ever since you were a boy, you've dreamt of being Kung Fu Guy. You are not Kung Fu Guy. You are currently Oriental Guy making a weird face, but you've been practicing. Maybe tomorrow will be the day. Take what you can get. Try to build a life at the margin, made from bit parts. Willis Wu, Asian actor. Skills, Kung Fu, moderate proficiency. Fluent in accented English. Able to do face of great shame on command. Resume, disgraced son, delivery guy. Silent henchman. Caught between two worlds. Guy who runs in and gets kicked in the face. Striving immigrant. Generic Asian man. Oh, I forgot. This is a drinking game. So anytime you hear the word Asian, you have to take a drink. You're all going to be drunk in about 3 minutes. Your mother has played in no particular order, pretty Oriental flower, Asiatic seductress, young dragon lady, slightly less young dragon lady, restaurant hostess, girl with the almond eyes, beautiful maiden number one, dead beautiful maiden number one, old Asian woman. Your father has been at various times twin dragon, wizened Chinaman, guy in a soiled t-shirt, inscrutable grocery owner in a soiled t-shirt, egg roll cook, young Asian man, Sifu, the mysterious Kung Fu master, old Asian man. Interior, Golden Palace, morning. In the world of black and white, everyone starts out as generic Asian man. Everyone who looks like you, anyway. Unless you're a woman, in which case you start out as pretty Asian woman. You all work at Golden Palace, formerly Jade Palace, formerly Palace of Good Fortune. There's an aquarium in the front and cloudy tanks of rock crabs and 2-pound lobsters crawling over each other in the back. Laminated menus offer the lunch special, which comes with a bowl of fluffy white rice and choice of soup, egg drop or hot and sour. A neon Qingdao sign blinks and buzzes behind the bar in the dimly lit space, a dropped ceiling room with lacquered ornate woodwork, or some imitation thereof, everything simmering in a warm, seedy red glow thrown off by the dollar store paper lanterns, festooned above. Many of them darkened by dead moths, the paper yellowing, ripped, curling in on itself. The bar is fully stocked with top shelf spirits up top, middle shelf liquor at eye level, and down at the bottom, a happy hour shelf of booze that you will regret for sure. The new thing everyone is excited about is called the Lychee Margarita Teeny, which seems like a lot of flavors. You wear the uniform, white shirt, black pants, black slipper-like shoes that have no traction whatsoever. Your haircut is not good, to say the least. Black and white always look good. A lot of it has to do with the light. They're the heroes. They get the hero lighting designed to hit their faces just right. Designed to hit White's face just right, anyway. Someday you want the light to hit your face like that, to look like the hero, or for a moment to actually be the hero. Roles. First, you have to work your way up. Starting from the bottom, it goes background Oriental male, dead Asian man, generic Asian man number 3, delivery guy, generic Asian man number 2 / waiter, generic Asian man number 1. And then if you make it that far, hardly anyone does, you get stuck at number 1 for a while and hope and pray for the light to find you. And then when it does, you'll have something to say. And when you say that something, it will come out just right and have everyone in black and white turning their heads saying, wow, who is that? That is not just some generic Asian man, that is a star. Maybe not a real regular star, let's not get crazy. We're talking about Chinatown, but perhaps a very special guest star, which for your people is the ceiling, is the ultimate, terminal, exalted position for any Asian working in this world, the thing every Oriental male dreams of when he's in the background, trying to blend in. Kung Fu guy. Kung Fu guy is not like the other slots in the hierarchy. There isn't always someone occupying the position, as in whoever the top guy is at any given time, that's the default guy who gets trotted out whenever there's Kung Fu to be done. Only a very special Asian can be worthy of the title. It takes years of dedication and sacrifice, and after all that, only a few have even a slim chance of making it. Despite the odds, you all grew up training for this and only this. All the scrawny yellow boys up and down the block dreaming the same dream. Matt, I appreciate that you actually took a drink every time I said Asian. Thank you. That was very honorable of you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Charles. Yeah, I mean, if you ask for something as the guest of the reading series, I feel like you should get it. I believe Michael Kiggins also is the only other person I can see other than the 3 readers, and also played very hard at this drinking game. So I appreciate Michael's efforts. Charles, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to hear from this book, which is so fantastic. I've been thinking about your work a lot this week in lots of ways, not only because I want to know what's happening on Westworld and don't yet exactly, but also I've been thinking a lot and talking with friends about Florence and Standard Loneliest Package and other stories of yours that I really love. So thank you all so much for that. That is the end of the live stream portion of this. So I'm going to stop the live stream and then I'll speak for a minute and we'll switch everybody into breakout groups if you want to hang out. If you don't want to hang out, this is a fantastic time to flee. Just thank our readers in the chat and vanish if you would like. But if you'd like to hang out and drink in small groups, we will continue to do that for a moment. Okay, let me stop the